Hello, everybody. I know we're a bit skinny on the grounds tonight due to all sorts of fun stuff that's happening in various different areas, but we are here, we are safe, we are talking to you, and that is great. And we're going to continue on our little adventure through the body that we've started quite a while back now. And we're going to pick up from where we left off last week, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay, there we go. So once again, we are doing your body sign language. I'll shrink everybody down so I can see what's happening over here. And we've been going through the digestion and elimination, etc. This week, we are getting further down. We're getting to a thing called Chinese restaurant syndrome. And this happens when you become ill after eating foods with monosodium glutamate, otherwise known as MSG. And I know I seem to have developed a bit of a sensitivity to MSG over the years. And if something's got MSG in it, and I have it for supper, I tend to not sleep so well that night. Sensitivity to MSG may indicate a marginal or inadequate intake of vitamin B6 and magnesium. So I can't say after we've been using our new magnesium if this is still affecting me, because I try and still stay away from MSG whenever I can. Chinese restaurant syndrome is characterized by symptoms such as warmth, stiffness, weakness in the limbs, tingling, pressure, headache, lightheadedness, heartburn, or gastric discomfort. And this can be in hands and feet or limbs or anywhere along those lines. Dr. Carl Falkers suggested it is because glutamate intensifies a borderline deficiency of vitamin B6. In other words, it clashes quite badly with vitamin B6. MSG makes food taste better than it is, which is why it is a popular additive in processed foods. Processed foods, when you strip away all the other stuff in there, tend to be quite bland and tasteless in a lot of cases. So that's why they add all the flavor enhancers and the preservatives and all those other lovely toxins that we get with our processed goods to make them taste good. High amounts of glutamate in a rapidly absorbed form, such as MSG, will overexcite the nerve cells, even to the point of death in extreme cases. So once again, the poison is in the dose. If you have too much MSG, it will hype your cells to a standstill, which will kill you. Ingestion of MSG has the potential to overwhelm the protective mechanisms of the brain cells. Remember, the brain is a very delicate organ, and there are a lot of things in place to protect it. But if the nerve cells are overstimulated, we're going to end up with problems. Nutrients such as vitamin B6, E, and magnesium protect the brain cells from these excitotoxins. And excitotoxins are any foreign toxic substance, for instance, that causes almost a hyperactivity, I suppose you could say, in the nerves. So if you're looking at a heart and you have a heart that goes into a situation called fibrillation, it can lead to heart failure. So normally there's a nice steady beat with the heart, but when there's fibrillation, it's going almost like a jelly, and it short circuits. And this is what happens to our nerves. Nerves will be twitching in a normal manner, but you have the excitotoxins come along and suddenly they vibrate out of control and they go into a standstill. So the suggestions do not allow blood sugar to become unstable by excess, oops, I didn't check my spelling again, sugar consumption. And minimize your exposure to MSG. So if you are having processed foods, and looking at the situation in the country at the moment, I think we're all going to be eating a lot more processed foods in the coming days. Then just read the labels, be aware of what is in there, and make sure you don't have too much. And then supplement with a good source of vitamin B complex, vitamin E, and magnesium. And we have a good source of all three of those things, namely our vitamin B complex and our vitamin E, which, as we all know, has got a chain of all 8 of the vitamin E's, not just one. And then the new magnesium, which has been developed and designed to be, I wouldn't say instantly absorbed, but absorbed within about 5 minutes. So it has a very high bioavailability. Some people have a craving for salt and a tendency to apply excess salt to food or to crave very salty foods. Salt craving may indicate a zinc deficiency or weak adrenal glands. And where do we get weak adrenal glands from? Stress. Right now, there's a lot of people that are going to be having a huge amount of zinc deficiency and weak adrenal glands because of stress. When zinc is low, food tends to lose its taste, and there is a tendency to add excess salt in order to improve the flavor and taste. So if you're sitting with friends or neighbors or relatives and you see them frantically adding more salt to their food, have a chat to them, because it's possible that their zinc levels are actually low for some reason or other. Zinc plays a very special role in the perception of taste and smell. And going through this, thinking about it, this could possibly be why when people are suffering from COVID, they lose their sense of taste and smell. My own personal opinion, zinc is being utilized in greater doses to boost the immune system and not being refilled well enough from food or supplementation, especially with the non-chelated forms of zinc that are out there at the moment, commonly known in my terminology as cheapy nasties. And that could very well be the reason why we tend to lose our sense of taste and smell. Just a theory on my part, there is no scientific fact behind that. The unusual cravings associated with pregnancy may also be caused or contributed to by zinc deficiency. As we know, when pregnant, those little people tend to suck a huge amount out of a mommy, and that is vitamins, nutrients, minerals, and basically the entire life is sucked out of the mother. And if she's not replacing those things through her diet, she's going to end up with problems. Changes in taste are common after delivery of an infant. Once again, the system has been depleted and takes a while to return to normal. Pregnancy tends to challenge not only zinc reserves, but also vitamin B6 adequacy, because that little person needs vast amounts of vitamin B for growth and for the development of the nervous system. This is where zinc comes in as well, because as you know, zinc works on the nerves. Zinc tends to be low in soil and is therefore not abundant in food, specifically with commercial farming. It is suggested to supplement rather than to try to get from food. So obviously food and diet is your number one choice to get any nutrients and any nutrition from, but because of commercial farming and because of the pesticides, etc., that are being used these days, a lot of these vital and essential minerals are no longer there or in very short supply. Zinc is rapidly depleted when you are under emotional or physical stress. Again, look around. This is where we are. It's reality. Once deliveries are open, please stock up on zinc. Yeah, there are some signs that your adrenals are trying to get your attention. And they include things like fatigue in the morning and afternoon, stress or anxiety, sugar or salt cravings, low blood sugar, low blood pressure, muscle aches, joint pain, chemical sensitivity to odors and perfumes, etc. And there's a whole lot more, which we won't go into just yet. Those with weak adrenals often have low blood pressure and may also develop cravings for salt because they feel better when they consume it. One of the adrenal gland functions is to retain adequate salt for the body's day-to-day functioning. And salt is saline and is vital in the operation of your body. Consuming salt reduces the work the adrenal gland must perform to accomplish this goal. Those with weak adrenals should not be put on low salt diets. So if you know somebody who is suffering from adrenal fatigue, they go to their doctor or their dietitian and they put them on a low salt diet, please ask them to question this. According to Dr. Jonathan Wright, sea salt is an important item in staying healthy for anyone with low blood pressure and weak adrenals. Dr. Wright also suggested augmenting salt with a little licorice extract for those with weak adrenals and low blood pressure. So the suggestions: avoid rapidly absorbed carbohydrates. So these are your simple carbohydrates. But don't avoid salt if blood pressure is low and the adrenals are weak. So make sure you have adequate salt. Try not to over salt anything. Eat breakfast. Breakfast being obviously the most important meal of the day. Supplement with an adrenal glandular. We do not have adrenal glandular supplements in this country, but it is available overseas. Apologies, I feel like I'm about to sneeze and I could explode all over you. Supplement with zinc, vitamins C and B, or vitamin C and B complex, omega-3 oils, phospholipids, and phosphosterols. Where do we find these things with the big fancy terms? Treonine. We know that the zinc is chelated and therefore has a much better absorption and is a much better utilized supplement than the cheaper version. And the breakfast that I've got shown over here is a good idea because it's got everything that you actually need in it. Gallstones, which is the formation of stones in the gallbladder. And this apparently seems to be becoming a much more common thing these days. I see a lot of patients who are having their gallstones removed or their gallbladder removed. So when gallstones are being removed, they actually surgically remove the entire gallbladder, which causes a lot of issues. And I see probably about 2 to 3 patients a week because of having their gallbladders removed. Gallstones are the most costly and common digestive disease in the USA. And I think we can say rapidly becoming the same in this country. Gallstones may result from allergic response to foods or deficiencies of fiber and hydrochloric acid. Remember, the hydrochloric acid is there to digest the food. Fiber is there to mop up the excess fats and sugars and get it out of your system. And also because there may be an allergic response, your system goes into hyper mode. Gallstones are often caused by poor tolerance of foods such as egg, pork, and onion. And these seem to be the most common things. Food allergies apparently prevent normal emptying of the gallbladder. And this results in the development of stones because it's a hardening of or oxidization of the gall, which then becomes stones. Low stomach acid secretion may also contribute to the development of gallstones. And I've been finding this quite interesting because looking at the patients who are coming in for their gallbladders to be removed, I can see, obviously looking back and looking through case notes, etc., a lot of these things, and I can now start to understand why they've developed the gallstones in the first place. Vitamin C may be an important preventative for gallstones. Common steps that can be taken to prevent gallstones include regular exercise, consumption of fiber containing foods, and if you're not getting high fiber foods, you need to supplement with a multi-purpose fiber, and avoid excess coffee. One of the things that happens with people when they're getting tired is they want to down some caffeine. What's the easiest and most conventional way of getting caffeine? Coffee. These measures tend to normalize the emptying of the gallbladder. If the gallbladder is removed, there becomes an intolerance to fats, and but this may be overcome by supplementing with pancreatic enzymes or bile acids. We do not have these things in our range at present. I do believe there are some of these things in overseas market, but not here in South Africa right now. But we do have a whole lot of digestive enzymes available in our NutriShake. If you're feeling that you need that, the enzymes, please get some NutriShake or Neolife Shake, should I say. Suggestions: avoid foods to which you're allergic. And this we can spin back to earlier talks that I've done. If you suspect that you have an allergy to foods, please see a physician to have yourself tested and checked so that you can work out exactly what you are allergic to. Allergies can cause problems. We then need to address any deficiency of stomach acid. Avoid excess coffee. Difficult, but doable. Very difficult to do instantly, but much easier to do if you wean yourself off things that are causing problems. Exercise regularly and eat a high fiber diet. Again, basic common sense rules, not always possible. And if you're not getting a lot of fiber in your diet, remember that our multi-fiber blend is a powder and can be added to things like bread flour, waffles, waffle dough, and muffin dough, etc., so that you have a lot more fiber available over there. We need to supplement with vitamin C and lipotropics, because what do lipotropics do? They absorb the excess fat and get it out of your system. So those are the two that I would recommend. There's the vitamin C because it is sustained release and has all the types of vitamin C that we need to get. The next issue that we have is a thing called pica, which is a craving for or eating of things that would not normally be considered food. Pregnancy is a common issue where you find this because, once again, baby sucking all the nutrients out of mommy, and mommy is desperately needing these things. She hasn't listened to her body properly, so she starts to crave foods, things that are not foods, like eating chalk, or in the case of my sister-in-law, wanting to have a lot of Rice Krispies. Some people like to lick bricks, etc. There's some really weird ones out there. Pica may indicate nutrient deficiencies, especially of certain trace minerals. And that you'll see when you have a craving for eating chalk or licking bricks. Pregnant women are notorious for their cravings of strange foods. Cravings can be anything from dirt to soap, ashes to chalk, and paint to burnt matches. Can't imagine having a craving for any of these things, but obviously it's real. Pica has been associated with a deficiency of several trace minerals, including iron, zinc, calcium, and magnesium. Iron appears to be the most common deficiency in children. Again, quite a weak mineral and something that's missing in a lot of our foods. Zinc is not only frequently low in the diet, but may be involved with the development of pica. So I think we're probably going to see quite a bit more of this as things develop, because as commercial farming becomes more dependent on artificial fertilizers, etc., we're going to see a lot more depletion of these minerals. Zinc is essential for the ability to taste and smell. Suggestions: supplement or obtain in the diet essential trace minerals, including iron, zinc, calcium, and magnesium. And we can get pretty much all of these from our multi-mineral supplement. Specifically, now that iron is not available currently in any market, you need to use extra multi-mineral and take vitamin C with that, because that helps your body to absorb that extra iron. If you have excess stomach acid, there's a simple test that you can do to check and see if you feel that you do have that excess stomach acid. And this test involves consuming a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar or lemon juice and see if your heartburn goes away. And you'll probably find that you feel that you've got excess stomach acid because you have heartburn. If the heartburn goes away when consuming the above, then stomach acid is probably low. If the heartburn becomes worse, there is a possibility of excess stomach acid. Deficiencies should be treated with betaine hydrochloric acid and pepsin. Please do not take this lightly. Speak to your physician and or dietitian to obtain these things in a safe manner. You do not want to be going along drinking battery acid, because that is hydrochloric acid. But the betaine hydrochloric acid is a different form, and it is available, but I would suggest going through your doctor to have this done under controlled conditions. Hydrochloric acid supplements should be designed to release in the stomach rather than the mouth or small intestine. And if you think about it, this is essentially the reverse of what happens with our acidophilus and our garlic, which both have acid-proof coverings to release in the small intestine rather than the stomach, because we need those things in the small intestine. We do not need hydrochloric acid in the small intestine, because it's used in the stomach to help to break down your foods and to help to get nutrition going that way. Suggestions: confirmatory test is available for stomach acid secretion. Again, go to your doctor. Supplement with stomach acid if needed. Speak to your doctor and your dietitian. And that is a very shortened version of my talk tonight, and ends that part on elimination and digestion. And I'll start the next one next week. So does anybody have any stories about indigestion or have experienced any of the things that I've spoken about, like gallstones, for instance? Please unmute yourself.
Sean, what are the possibilities of discussing diet for people with who do not have a gallbladder? There are many people without a gallbladder.
Yes, and I'm seeing a lot more of them these days. I would need to do a little bit more research on that so that I can go into it in more depth. It is best, and I know the patients that I see, once they've had a gallbladder removed, every single one of them is referred to a dietitian, because there are certain foods that they will not be able to eat at all. There are other foods that they will be able to eat, but will have to be much smaller amounts. So they'll have to have smaller meals and smaller amounts of that particular food. And they need to also be aware of certain combinations of food. So any high-fat food So fried foods, for instance, are going to be problematic just because their body will not be able to break down the fats quite so easily. They should still be able to take our omega-3, for instance, even though it is a fat, it is in a different form and is more easily digestible and absorbable. So omega-3 is probably a good thing to be used after having had the gallbladder removed. And I would suggest using the lipotropic more for that as well, also to help to break down the fats and hold them in suspension better.
Okay. Now my neighbor has a problem and she's very strict with her diet, but I know she has problems from time to time. Would it help for them to take aloe vera plus?
I think it will help a little bit with digestion, but basically what you want to do, because what the bile does, my memory is correct, what the bile does is it leaks into the stomach after a meal to help to break down the fats. And what happens now, obviously, because the gallbladder has been removed, that bile is no longer there. So if you have a very fatty meal, for instance, fat tends to ride up and you end up with indigestion and bloating and all that sort of thing. And that's where the problem comes about. So yes, aloe vera should help to a certain extent. I think your acidophilus would probably work better, as well as the lipotropic.
Thank you, Sean.
No problem. Any other questions?
Sean, that was very interesting. Thank you. Just the one thing that I thinking about, a lot of people have this bile come up into their reflux.
Yes.
And you've just said that. Well done, thank you. Now to answer them, you're having far too many fats, bad fats.
Correct. That's known as GERD, or gastroesophageal reflux disorder, I think it is. And it can be quite uncomfortable. And often you do have the stomach acid that comes up into the esophagus, which then results in burns, which can leave scar tissue in the esophagus, which can become quite nasty because some people then scar. If anybody's ever seen burn scars, they're not fun. And acid causes those burns because you get heat burns and you get acid burns. So you have that esophageal reflux and you have burning in the esophagus, which can cause narrowing and swelling, which leads to problems with swallowing. And I think that's where the aloe vera would come in handy to neutralize that acid burn. But you've got to get to the cause of where the problem is.
On that topic, Sean, I can remember, can you hear me?
Yes, go for it.
I can remember years ago watching Dr. Os's program. He was also talking on this topic and he showed the picture of the acid as you describe now. And if I can say so-called normal one, and it's a big difference. It almost looked like a very raw sore.
And it is.
Because of the acid.
Correct.
And if I can just say another thing is, I had a gallbladder operation in 1994. You know, those days were the home industries days and no new life. So you know what? I loved my food and cream and things like that. Not fat, like fatty meat and things like that, but cream and butter, margarine, obviously the wrong one. And since my gallbladder was removed, as Linda said and you said, diet is very, very important because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what food we eat, the quantities and all of that has an impact on how we feel. And that's just me in a nutshell. Thank you very much.
Correct, yes. Food affects us, both good and bad.
I remember a couple of years ago, I used to get terrible heartburn. I couldn't eat or drink. I couldn't eat white bread. I couldn't have, I remember the killer was freshly squeezed orange juice. And I literally became unconscious with the pain from that orange juice. My poor husband thought that he had lost me. My niece thought that she had committed suicide because we all did the oranges. And then I was introduced to acidophilus. And I used to take 2 acidophilus every single day for months. And now I don't even have with me here on holiday. I have them once in a while if I really have binged on cake or hot dogs or hamburgers or something like that with a white bread. And I now can eat and drink anything, and I don't have any of that terrible heartburn that used to boil up and burn in my mouth, and my throat was burnt. I could feel it. I don't think I had that type of burn that caused scar tissue per se, or bad scar tissue. I might still have, I don't know. But it burnt that it actually hurt me, and it left that terrible taste. But acidophilus and aloe vera gel, aloe vera plus, wonderful. I can now, I'm free of all that now.
Yeah, we have some really good products available. So yeah, just be aware of what you're eating and listen to your gut. You always talk about that gut feel, and now you understand why. Right, if there's no more stories, I'm going to quit recording.